And welcome back. You were watching VGL Season 1 of our 2v2 season, and this is a Week 2 matchup between bnasty and Diener, a Protoss Terran team, and they are up against another Protoss Terran team, KrysJustice and NastyWitIt. Now, NastyWitIt and KrysJustice on the receiving end of a very brutal double 6 pool, which ended their hopes of getting a win in Week 1. bnasty and Diener had a absolute slugfest against Kid in the Business, unfortunately coming up a little bit short, costing them an early loss as well. So both teams very hungry for a win here in Week 2. We'll have to see how this translates to effort and strategy as they go at it on High Orbit. Now, High Orbit, a map known for very large ramp, but also shared bases. So you have a little bit of defense, but you do have quite a walling off effort here to do. And we do see some teamwork coming down for KrysJustice and NastyWitIt as they try to tackle that wall-in effort. Meanwhile, Diener doesn't look like he's too interested in trying to wall this off. And bnasty, of course, is just kind of looks like he's just going to go ahead and build from his base as well. So not too much of an effort there for the wall off. Doesn't look like they're too concerned with any early attacks. They're going to just rely on units. See a gateway going down, a little bit of idle time there, NastyWitIt, but he does get the barracks down. Diener is able to get in though, and he will go for the scout, try to find out positioning, any kind of early builds that might be going on. With KrysJustice, you want to make sure there's no early forge plays. That could be a cannon push. And even though we haven't seen a cannon push yet in this season, oh, that is not true actually. Chromix did attempt a cannon push. So, you know, all cheese is starting to be broken. We're taking the wrappers off that cheese and we're making it perfectly edible. And you have to check for everything. So we do see this gateway about to finish, and they will hopefully put something here in the middle to try and wall that off completely. A supply depot would be perfect since you can lower and open it, but they may leave it open as well. It is a pretty large ramp. Let's go ahead and take a look at the income tab. We see income fairly even across the board. We do see bnasty and KrysJustice with some early gas. We'll have to see what they plan to use that for. bnasty is known for his harassment techniques. He is absolutely lethal early game, and he will waste no advantage here. One area of advantage I see already that everyone tries to take advantage of on High Orbit is the rock backdoor complete with smoke. This makes it very, very easy to go ahead and try to get in the back door of the bases there. So you always want to put some kind of supply depot, some kind of pylon to watch, but we don't see anything there. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. You see Cybernetic score going down, and we do see barracks going down for both Terran players, and we do see a Twilight Council going down for bnasty. That looks like he's leaning towards some cloaked Dark Templar play. So we may see some DTs. And we do see warp gates going down for both KrysJustice and bnasty, indicating that they might be going for some warp gate units. So it should definitely be interesting to see how this plays out. KrysJustice also known for a little bit of his DT play. Don't know if we'll see that here today. He's definitely got a little bit of a disadvantage. bnasty's a little ahead of the curve with the Templar Archives coming in. You see Diener setting up an early forward bunker. It looks like he will go for a fast expend on this gold. That means that they should be open to an early attack if it has been scouted. But in typical fashion, not bnasty, but NastyWitIt, no relation, and KrysJustice, they are not big scouters. Matter of fact, if we take a look at the team view here, you'll see that while Diener and bnasty have not scouted a whole lot, you know, they at least have some scouting information. They know there's a wall, for example. Look at the other side. Absolutely nothing. They have no clue what they're building, where they are. For all they know, they could be here with proxies and they wouldn't know it. I mean, it's almost like they're playing solo. There is absolutely no visibility whatsoever, and that has been one of the biggest disadvantages they had to deal with in their first matchup in Week 1. That scouting could have possibly prevented, or at least helped to avoid, the 6-pool disaster in their game 2. So that is definitely something this team needs to figure out, is who's going to do the scouting, when are they going to do the scouting, because scouting is essential, especially at this level of play. So we do see a robotics facility coming down, and we do see an observer coming out, whether it'll be used for cloaked units, since they are aware bnasty has a fetish for all things invisible, or if it will be used for scouting, will remain to be seen. We do see a reactor going down there, and a tech lab, and another reactor. So we'll definitely see a heavy marine backed up with Marauder from NastyWitIt. Only 3 barracks though. Definitely want to see some more barracks, especially as we're approaching the 7-minute mark. We also want to see the range increase for the robotics bay if we're going to see Colossi, and we already have Colossi under construction. So fast Colossi build from KrysJustice should be very interesting to see how that plays out, but without the range upgrade, it is susceptible to this bunker since it does get a range bonus for the Marines inside, evening the score. Meanwhile, we do see Diener investing heavily in this expansion, so this is definitely a risk factor here. If KrysJustice and NastyWitIt can, well, first of all, if they had even scouted this base, they would know that they could potentially put an early dent in the Diener economy, making it essentially a 2-on-1 temporarily, if they're able to capitalize on this. But seeing as they just don't know that it's there, I don't know if they're going to do anything about it. Now, we do see DTs on the map for bnasty. This is very staple for him. We also see a warp prism, and we see that prism flying around the outskirts of the base, no likely looking to drop somewhere in here. Simultaneously, however, we do have a rollout here between NastyWitIt's handful of Marines, KrysJustice's slow lots, and a single unupgraded range Colossi. Wow, that was a mouthful. So just as this this warp prism here is about to deploy, we see these Marines rolling in, and they will be shredded by what looks like a very evened out setup here from Diener. He's got more than enough Marines to take this out. Unfortunately, this Colossi went in without the Zealots. The Zealots completely going in the wrong direction, and unfortunately, without the range upgrade, that Colossi is just a total waste of money. Meanwhile, we do have DTs shredding NastyWitIt's economy. He needs to get a scan down. More importantly, he needs to get some units over there. These Zealots are racing against time as all these SCVs are keeping this bunker alive. And it looks like they're just completely abandoning hope and just running around in confusion. Meanwhile, we have complete destruction. It looks like NastyWitIt did not try to even lift off that base, and he needs to take advantage. I mean, that's a Terran advantage there. All these buildings need to be in the air. And we do see Colossi here, however, there is no vision whatsoever. And this is just turning into a disaster very quickly. We now have Observer in play. They can try to take down these DTs. And it looks like that Colossi is not going to make it. It goes down. However, the Zealots do clean up the remaining DTs, and wow, what a drop. And we see more coming in as they just do not have enough units. We see 4 Stalkers on the field now, going to try to even out the score. We do see quite a few Marines, though, from NastyWitIt. He needs to get those over here. He needs to kick this Warp Prism out of his base and retake the Sanctuary. A lone SCV wandering around with some gas, trying to trade it for maybe some safety and a warm bed, because that is not what he will get over here. We've got buildings on fire. It just looks terrible. It's just an awful chain of events going on. And we see Diener now with a planetary fortress solidifying a nice hold here on the gold. We take a look at the income tab, soaring through the roof. Diener is just taking a massive macro control here. bnasty and KrysJustice fairly even. We do see NastyWitIt now trying to expand, and these Marines trying to make some kind of quick route. We do see a handful of Marines from Diener now. Looks like they're going to roam around, try to find any loose expansions going on. KrysJustice, always a late expander. He still does not have the range upgrade on these Colossi, and that is critical when dealing with Marines. The difference in range is completely nominal without that range upgrade, and he really needs to get it. We do see an army rolling out, though, and he will be met, unfortunately, with a planetary fortress and with a bunker. Let's take a look at the unit tab here, and we see very small units here for KrysJustice. Not much for anybody else, to be honest. KrysJustice and NastyWitIt, if they attack in tandem, would have quite a force to reckon with, but they really need to get a range upgrade on these Colossi, and they need to get coordinated. Right now, NastyWitIt is focusing on expanding his base, and unfortunately, KrysJustice is just being left to die here. These SCVs are keeping this bunker alive. He's not even putting a dent in it, and KrysJustice backing off, and it looks like he just doesn't know what to do. He doesn't understand why it's not working. He's just in complete confusion here. Meanwhile, bnasty, another drop, handful of Zealots that will go down to these Marines, but he did put a little bit of a dent in that rebuilding economy attempt, and now we see bnasty rolling out. Take a look at the unit tab here, and we'll see that he does have now a nice number of Stalkers, a single DT. This is not looking good at all. Income tab, NastyWitIt still completely flatlined, and it is just not looking good at all. Resources, NastyWitIt is completely reliant on KrysJustice at this point. He does have a surplus of resources, and he should be funneling those to his teammate to try and get him back in this. His Marines will be absolutely essential to try and get any kind of a rebound here. bnasty's Warp Prism staying alive, still in the groove, bnasty going down with some cannons and an expansion, and the macro game is definitely swaying heavily in favor. We do see a factory and starport going down for Diener, and this is just not looking good. Take a look at the production tab here, and it just everything I look at spells out slow death here. KrysJustice and NastyWitIt are in the fight of their lives right now. They need to find a bounce back here. They need to find an early win. That gold expansion, the opportunity was lost. This DT is now just waltzing in here, completely ballsy, going for an attack. We do see some mobility on the Diener bnasty ball. A stealth troop leads the way, going in to see if he can cause any damage. He will find only a mule, but lots of marines to shred in half, and he's single-shotting these marines. NastyWitIt finally moving those marines out of the way, and meanwhile we have a couple of zealots roaming around, just poking in, keeping an eye on things, but we just do not see, with all the resources at KrysJustice's disposal, we should see an army of charge lots, an upgraded Colossi. Right now, you have to wonder if maybe a little bit of panic is kicking in, as KrysJustice is essentially responsible for defending both of them. NastyWitIt does have a good number of Marines, but they are not teaming up together, and they have a nice ball of troops. But unless they fight together in tandem, this is going to continue to be a one-sided affair. This army with these defenses is going to be way too formidable for this, especially with unupgraded Colossi. And we see them rolling in again, trying once again. I'd like to see them try a backdoor. It's just this brute force attempt is not working out. That bunker will finally go down, but that planetary fortress is going to make it all but impossible to do anything against this army. These marauders, of course, great at anti-armor, are going to shred everything in their path, and this is just not looking good. This is just, at this point, it's just a waiting game. NastyWitIt desperately trying to get back in. We see some miss micro on the workers that is not helping his cause. And this warp prism is still here. It is just a very persistent nail thorn in the side of NastyWitIt and KrysJustice. I mean, it hasn't really done much damage outside of the initial attack, but it still has the potential for a lot of problems. And we have to see what's going to happen here. KrysJustice, seemingly a little stubborn on this build, just continuing to insist on the same unit composition. And it's not even a bad composition, but he may want to pick a different target. I mean, this is a pretty hardy target here. And now that we have Immortals on the field, it's going to make it just really impossible to penetrate this. He needs to try and go for an attack maybe on the back door here, even though Diener has eyes, gives him an option. There's also a softer target here with bnasty's expansion, but again, the lack of scouting makes it very difficult. bnasty now with 4 DTs warped in, he's going to go ahead and remind NastyWitIt why he's his favorite player, and he is just going to go over here and say, hey, you know, I see you've been working hard on these SCVs, let me go ahead and take this out. Scan goes down, but no Marines to take advantage of it, and that scan will be completely wasted. These DTs now go free reign on this army here, and it's just complete disaster on the rebuilding effort for NastyWitIt. We do see an expansion coming down for KrysJustice. He will desperately need that as he is starting to run out of mineral fields. Very small army here, indicative of lack of resources, although he does have a lot of minerals, a little low on gas. He could be using those, and NastyWitIt is completely taken out by 4 DTs. This is just a train wreck, unfortunately. And KrysJustice, NastyWitIt had such advantage early on, especially if they would have combined armies, but unfortunately they just did not take advantage of it, and the scouting was a key part of that. I can't stress it enough how much scouting has caused a problem here. If we take a look at what team visibility is, look at this. They only know about this one base. They do not know anything else. And if you look at the minimap, as soon as I hit the everyone button, it lights up in purple and yellow. There are so many targets that they are completely unaware of. They don't know about warp prisms. They don't know locations for anything. They're really operating in the dark. Unfortunately, at this point, it's a little late, and this Zealot DT army is definitely going to pose a threat here. This Colossi needs to get a range upgrade. It will definitely be still be potent here, but it's a high priority target. So it's going to be tough. And as the distraction does its job, softening this army, we now see the massive army of Diener and bnasty roll in, Thors in tow, and they are going to completely lay waste to this wall. And a game that should have probably been over 10 minutes ago is going to most likely come to a close with this attack, as Diener and bnasty completely steamroll KrysJustice's base. The GGs go down, and the win goes to Diener and bnasty. Excellent play from them. bnasty with his typical a doom drop fashion, you know, with the warp prism play, and just really a lack of scouting, hurting KrysJustice and NastyWitIt very hard. Scouting could have definitely swayed this a different way. We'll have to see how they bounce back from this in game 2.